Hi, folks. This is Chris Voss from thechrisvossshow.com, thechrisvossshow.com. Coming in here with a blog post that I want to take and share with you here. Now, I've had thousands of employees over the years. I've seen the effects of my interactions with them. I've seen the effects of their interactions with me, the influences, styles that I've used, how some of my decisions have had a direct impact in their lives, sometimes very impressively, monetarily. And it gives one cause over years, and I've got over 20 plus years in entrepreneurial business. It gives one pause where you learn a lot about leadership. You learn how important some of the messages you give out. You'll learn what people do with those messages, and some of the impact that you have, and the importance or responsibility that you have as a leader. Now, one thing I want to talk to you about is I was counseling someone recently, someone who I see as a great leader, but a lot of times they're negating stuff. They're saying that to their followers, you shouldn't do this. And once they say that, 10 to 20,000 idiots go out and run around telling the whole world what they say. You see a lot of this, of course, in politics and religion too. It's a huge instance of concern when you're a leader and something you want to be self-aware of. And so it's important to realize the power that you have as a leader when you're a leader, especially the much more larger leader that you are. So the title of this blog post is Know Your Power, Respect Your Followers, and Be Self-Aware. Very important. One of the problems that I see with a lot of leaders that aren't self-aware is they don't really understand what their followers do with their messages and how those messages either self-limit or they use them to go out in the world and spread that message. One of the things you can unfortunately do as a leader is by putting out a message, you can cause a lot of people to go light fires and go burn villages and attack the monster that you deemed as the monster, etc., etc. It's real important to see that effect that you have and to where your message goes, and sometimes the damage that it can do if you have that message out there very irresponsibly. Um, it's a very important thing when you look. I mean, you look at some of the different things that leaders have done over the years. Hitler, popes, um, other different destructive people that have led companies or sometimes countries over the years. Sometimes their irresponsible decisions or irresponsible communications can have horrific events on not only their followers but society. So it's very important as a leader that we understand these mechanisms, that we understand the influence that we have, and sometimes the damage it can do. I know people that they can say something and as a leader, and you'll have 10 or 20, 30,000 people like robots that will go, I will turn myself off to that idea also because so and so said it was bad. Okay, it's a very sad epidemic of human nature, but it's what people in human nature do. Problem is when you later come along and go, oh, I decided that it's a good idea now. The people are like, um, oh, okay, we like what you like now. And after a while, they start to figure out what your pattern is. So not everyone's an early adopter. There are two types of leaders. There's usually the leader who's the early adopter. They're the visionary. They're going, we're going forward here. We're marching off into the horizon, yada, yada, yada. Okay? There's also the types of leaders that they have very self-limited ideas. And sometimes you kind of have to if you want to be a leader of a contrarian group or something of that nature. But you have to come up with sometimes these ideas that maybe are based upon a popular group of people who do not want to learn and grow and become into light with new information and new ideas. And so in declaring yourself a leader at those, you have to keep those people self-limited to either your ideals or their ideals. And you're constantly telling them, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do this, avoid the new ideas, avoid the new thinking, etc., etc. After a while, people sometimes will start figuring out that you're full of it. People will start seeing the nuances of hypocrisy. If you're constantly telling people not to do things and they go, well, I think that's a great idea, I'll just do it anyway. Good example is the Catholic Church. Most people like what the Pope says. They like the Pope, but it's pretty well known when it comes down to not wearing condoms, as the Pope usually says. Most people that are Catholics say, no, we'll do what we want. Thanks for the advice there. So over time, if you're one of those leaders who's constantly changing and flip-flopping and going through, okay, well, I like this, oh now I like this before, you tend to lose power and respect over time. So it's really important you don't get into those modes of leadership, and you're very self-aware of where your leadership is and the effect that it has on your followers, where they go, how they succeed, whether or not they're self-limited too. I always ask myself, what I'm going to communicate, am I going to self-limit my followers? Am I going to give them ideas that aren't going to help them grow and achieve new things and learn new things? And if you follow the Chris Voss show, most of my conversation is always about embracing some of these new things, the coolness of them, the neatness of them, and how to expand your mind. There are sometimes where I've been tempted to go onto the blog and go, I hate this and I don't like this and blah, 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 and you shouldn't do that, and no one should do this. You know, you see this on different websites too. They're like 10 things you shouldn't do in social media. Usually it's a list of the most stupidest things that people come up with. They're usually relative, depending upon the situation. Um, and I've seen the rules usually broken 100 times over. Being a leader is a very important aspect because as smart leaders, you shouldn't negate stuff that you don't understand. You shouldn't limit the minds of your followers. Not every leader is a great early adopter, which is one of the problems most leaders have. They don't have any new ideas, so they have to keep everybody packaged and hold them down to the old ideas. Um, Unfortunately, usually hurts the growth of their followers. It hurts their ecosystem's growth, and eventually they lose them. Or most people, eventually go, "Look, you're just full of crap. You're always going from here to there." I think we've all worked for bosses over time that, we give them an idea. They go, "No, that's a crappy idea," and then 3 months later, suddenly it's their idea, and suddenly you're doing it, and you're like, "What the hell?" So. It's important to be self-aware as a leader. It's important to take responsibility to your followers. It's important for you to understand when 20 or 30,000 these idiots go running around saying a bunch of crap about what you've said and amplifying your message to a point that when you do switch messages back to go, no, I've decided that's not bad, you look even more silly and stupid. So you need to take that into cause and effect, because I take a look at it myself and I go, geez, what am I going to hear later? I mean, these people really blasted that message out there and everybody knows I'm going to be switching gears on it. One of the traps of leaderships is that control of followers using our self-limitation. So it's important we try not to limit ourselves as much as possible. Leaders have responsibility to their followers. Um, and you see it a lot of times destructively in politics and religion. Some leaders fight the future to control and limit their growth over something that they don't understand, or something that will come anyway. Unfortunately, you see this like in politics. People create a platform and they go, okay, everyone who doesn't believe in this platform is an asshole, and those people over there are bad and we're good. And unfortunately, that's very self-limiting. People have always asked me in politics what my political platform is. I've always said I'm a bipartisan, moderate, radical, not only way up the middle, or not only down the middle, I'm way up the middle. What's important about that aspect is because I want what's good for this country. I don't care necessarily whether it falls under a certain flag. Um, and I think that's probably the more important thing that we should take, as opposed to sitting around and arguing over whether Republicans or whether Democrats are better. Maybe we should just be arguing over what's good for the right of this country, and not a platform where we have to swallow all the other garbage to get some good things to happen. It's important to know your power. It's important to respect your followers. It's important to respect your place in the world at either gaining more followers or being more of a leader, etc., etc. Now, the one thing I always notice, and this is always something that really bothers me because it's really Machiavellian, is when people that are usually very large leaders warn people about the system. And they're like, oh, watch out for the system, and watch out for this, and watch out for that. 9 times out of 10, if you really look, they probably are the system. You see a lot of that in politics. They go, watch out for the Republicans. And then the Republicans spend a bunch of money. And then they go, Republicans go, watch out for the Democrats. The Democrats spend a lot of money. I'm going to put a post of a picture below this video, and this is really how I feel about politics. It's sad to say, but it's true. Anyway, and I think you'll know when you see, everyone's always saying these people are the oppressors. I think it identifies who the oppressors really are. So be careful when leaders are telling you, watch out for this, watch out for that. Are they just trying to get you to be self-limited into their system? The other thing you have to watch out for is the Machiavellian nature of someone warning you against learning something new, or warning you about not doing something. If I can get you to say, watch the system over there because those are the bad guys, Who aren't you watching? Because you're busy watching over there. You're not watching the leader. I think we've all seen examples, the bakers from religion, different people from some of that sect that are always like, watch out for those people, and turns out they're doing it in the background. So watch out for leaders that are using that semblance of disinformation or distraction and saying, watch out for everyone else, and you're busy watching them, and meanwhile they're feeding you their BS. So watch out for that nature. One thing I want to talk about is this leads into social media. I've been in marketing for 20 years. I saw a video the other day that was disturbing. Someone sent me, where someone was talking about how up until social media, marketing didn't build relationships. Marketing didn't get to know people, didn't build relationships with people beforehand. That is the biggest bunch of bullshit I've ever heard in my utter life. What's really ironic to me is that a lot of people in social media that are selling this, oh, marketing is bad, and you shouldn't market, and watch out for the marketers that are marketing and stuff. They usually have the emails that are laden with the most Google advertising on it that isn't directed to me in any way, shape, or form. They usually have the most affiliate links, and they're usually using the most advertising. I mean, I've got some people that have put out this BS about social media being a special hug, and yet sending me 10 emails a day, harassing the ever-living crap out of me about how special social media is. It's called hypocrisy, people. Now, there's some people that don't think for themselves, and unfortunately, they follow anybody and go, whatever he does. But there's some of us, the smart ones, who go, you're full of it, okay? So it's important as leaders we identify what kind of message we're selling and whether or not we're being consistent with that message, whether we're setting a good example of that message in and of ourselves. Otherwise, it just looks silly. But it's part of this contrarian thing that someone built in social media, where social media is different. It's going to be special. It's going to be the fucking unicorn. Okay? It's not the unicorn. Okay? If you're really following what's happening right now on Twitter and Facebook and a lot of other social media forums, they're moving to paid advertising. They're moving to paid marketing. Even Twitter most recently is running a whole lot of marketing through their system. Most people aren't smart enough to see it, the trending topics, etc., etc. I had somebody write me the other day, and they go, Twitter's special, there should be no advertising here. And I'm like, do you understand that they sold out a long time ago, and they're still selling out, and they're planning on selling out a whole lot more. This special little pony and all this crap that people have sold about social media not being, being different, it's not going to be that different. The only difference is it has marketing where you can actually talk back and you can have a conversation. TV, radio, all those other elements didn't have that before. And actually, you know what? Brands and corporations actually wanted to have that relationship. When you hear leaders that are like, oh, corporations didn't want to talk to people, they're full of shit. Completely full of shit. So we've been looking for that as corporations, because I know I have as a corporation, and we've been trying to build those relationships. So when people tell you that, be careful what you hear. And ask yourself, when they say, watch out for the oppressors, the bad people, the marketing people, the people that are selling you that hook, line, and sinker are probably the people you want to watch out for. So here's my end note. If you're a leader, make sure you have responsibility to your followers. Don't negate and self-limit your followers. Give them the chance to grow. Sometimes they can help you come up as a leader with their ideas. And realize the responsibility you have. Realize what your followers do when they go out and they start taking your messages and start burning villages and chasing down people that you may have deemed the monster in the village. It can have a very disturbing effect. I mean, take a look at what happened during the witch trials. I mean, one person can certainly make an incredible amount of difference in the quality of everyone's lives. So it's important that we work hard to be right as leaders, and it's important that we respect our followers and we understand what we're doing to them, and we help them grow and become leaders in their own right. To be a great leader, you create other great leaders. I really believe that. Thanks for coming by the ChrisVossShow.com. Be sure to think for yourself.